Hello, Hobby Nation, and welcome back to my favorite place on earth, Comic Cave. Every time I'm here in Comic Cave, I have to sing the song, 1, 2, 3, 4, Comic Cave, 1, 2, 3, 4, Comic Cave, Tuesday, what a day, ready to geek with you. I totally love Comic Cave, and hey, Hobby Nation, we have a fantastic treat for you today. Today, I am sitting with the co-creator, co-editor, correct?
Well, solo editor.
Solo editor, okay, and also content manager.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, for Marvel Comics, and many of us famously know her as the co-creator of the Miss Marvel character, Kamala Khan. And recently you were here for the Dubai Literature Fest, yes? Mm-hmm. Where you sat on a few panels.
Yes.
Okay, and so how was that experience sitting on the panels for the Literature Fest?
Well, here we go.
Yes.
So it was fantastic. So I'm here. Dubai does this annual literature festival. It's called the Emirates Literature Festival, and brings in authors from all over the world. And I was invited, and I got to speak on a bunch of panels about how cool and awesome comic books are and graphic novels, and specifically about the process of developing Ms. Marvel. The highlight for me was yesterday I did a student session with about 400 kids. And I got to talk to them about comics and Ms. Marvel and all of the other awesome things happening at the company. So it was great. It was really, really worth it. It's great to get people exposed to Marvel out here.
Okay, because one of the questions we want to ask is, again, a lot of us are huge fans, and we know that there's a big shakeup with Marvel now, which I am totally excited for, and it's really brought me back in with a lot of legacy and passing the torch that's happening in Marvel. And then so, will these exciting changes that's happening in Marvel, are these changes only in the comic books, or is it also behind the scenes with, again, like for you being, a woman, Muslim and everything else? So are these exciting changes just in the comics, or are we going to start seeing a flood of new talent in regards to artists and creators and content managers?
So I will say we've had like a lot of new talent emerging over the last few years. I mean, what's been so incredible is with the fact that we have so much different kinds of content out there has opened us up to a lot more different kinds of artists, different kinds of creators. I can say from my experience alone, we've got Ta-Nehisi Coates on Black Panther, and we've got Margaret Stohl on Captain Marvel. These people are not. They're not actually, they've never really written comics before, and they're sort of coming in because now they realize that there's sort of a door open. A lot of younger and new artists who are also joining the fold from very different backgrounds and experiences, and I think it really just goes to show sort of what Marvel is all about. It's about these different, distinct voices.
Okay. One of the things that I argue with my friends about, and we were talking about the future of comics, like especially a lot of these new characters and where they end up. And so many people have the speculation that at one point that Kamala Khan herself may be as big or bigger than Spider-Man. So there's a lot of, so this is amongst, me and some of my friends. And so for many of us, there's a lot of, there's a lot of debate about, again, Kamala Khan and the increasingly popularity of the character. So do you find, in your experience, that Kamala Khan is even more relatable than Peter Parker?
I mean, I think it's totally different. I don't think that Kamala Khan has beat Spider-Man in popularity. That would be amazing. Yeah. That would be a huge accomplishment. But I actually think that they are, they have very different experiences. Their journeys are also very different. I will say the commonality they have is that they were sort of young when they got their powers, trying to figure out everything around them, the balance between, having powers and being a young teenager and having commitments to your family and your friends. I think that is very similar. The heart and the humor is very similar. So for me, I think she's a different kind of character, but also sort of, really the Muslim Spider-Man in a lot of ways too. So I don't want her to overtake Spider-Man at all. I want her to live in the same space. If anything, like she's a big fan of his. So, yeah. Okay.
So, with the introduction of characters like Miss Marvel and everything else, do you think that, for example, we're both from the States, and so how, when Bill Cosby came, Bill Cosby was something that gave people an insight more or less into African-American families and how they work and things of that nature. So do you think that Kamala Khan could give people insight into a way families would work, let's say in South Asia or the Middle East, especially those with a Muslim background. So do you think that she could provide that insight, that would help, I guess, more or less normalize it to the culture there?
So, I mean, the idea was to make sure that we told a story about a young girl going through these really big experiences who happened to be Muslim. And I think that's the way that, like you said, it definitely normalizes people's perceptions of Muslims, people's perceptions of South Asians, and what it means to really grow up as a young American with all of these different experiences that you have to balance. So, most definitely, the idea is to normalize these concepts of race and gender and religion, and it's really up to people to look past all of that and look at, who she is as an individual. I think along the way they'll realize, oh yeah, she happens to be Muslim, but that's not what it's all about.
But I'll tell you this, is that it may be a little bit more popular than you think. In Brooklyn, we had a cable access show called Video Music Box. And so it had all the rap videos and everything else. And right after that, there was a show. And me and my sister and friends used to dance to it. And it was called It's My Pakistan. And so my mother, we would dance to the show, and it would come on, and Udo was like, Mera Pakistan hai, Mera Pakistan. And so we would be Tati dance to it, the reggae dance at the time. My mom was like, what are you watching? It's like, we don't know what it's about, but the food looks amazing, the colors are beautiful, and it's fantastic.
That's so great.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So they used to play a lot of Lollywood stuff after the rap videos. Yeah, go figure.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah. That's New York. And so I have a few friends here that you've met, right? And so we also know that you work on other titles outside of the Miss Marvel. And so out there in the crowd are insane Hawkeye fans, Captain Marvel fans, Ultimate Spider-Man fans. And so out of these titles that you're working on, what are you the most excited about? And then what's coming from these titles in the future?
So because my job has shifted so much, I don't get to work on as many books as I used to. I still am obviously on Captain Marvel, which is very near and dear to my heart. And Captain Marvel is a special one because it's Carol Danvers, and Carol Danvers is Ms. Marvel's favorite superhero and favorite character, and they have a really special bond. That is being written by Margaret Stohl, who is a New York Times bestselling author, like big comics nerd. She is bringing something really special to Carol Danvers' story. And I should also note Hawkeye, which the version that we're doing right now is telling Kate Bishop's story, and Kate Bishop specifically in Venice Beach in LA in California. So taking her back there, and then telling a sort of a Veronica Mars noir-ish sort of humor-bent story about Kate being an illegal private investigator and debunking all of these different mysteries happening within the LA area. So it's got a really great vibe. It's written by Kelly Thompson. Leonardo Romero is the artist. It's so good. It's I feel like one of my favorite books I've developed in a long time. Yeah.
But so, for example, in the years coming up, and this is just my speculation. So what I enjoy about Miss Marvel is when you come from big families, there's always a struggle to find your own identity, especially when the family is overprotective.
Yeah.
And so when I read her comic book, I felt in touch with that, wanting to find your own identity. And so coming up in the next 10 years, where do you see Miss Marvel coming up in the next years? Because I have my speculation, and then I'll let you answer the question, and then I'll come back with what my speculation is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think next 10 years, look, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I will be honest with you. We're still trying to figure out where she's going to go. I will say where she's already gone has been pretty incredible. Yeah. She's in Avengers Assemble animated series on DXD. So she's an Avenger on that show. She's in multiple Marvel games. She has her own Legend Hasbro action figure. She's a Funko. She's a Funko doll. She has a Lego, like a little Lego action figure. So there's a lot going on with her. So I know that there's a desire to take her into different places. My wish list, yeah, sure. I would love if she had her own television show or her own film. Like, that would be incredible. And it all just depends on, the mighty heads of Marvel and what they would want to do. But hopefully, I'll be along there for the ride and help to sort of develop her further if that's a possibility. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, again, as a fan, here's my foolish speculation, and feel free to laugh at me. Okay, my speculation is that, again, she's an Inhuman, right? And so with her being an Inhuman and with her particular background and her struggle to find her own self-identity, what I find is that in the future she's going to be a problem in the Inhuman community. And the reason being is that the Inhumans have a caste system.
Okay.
And so when you're in the Inhumans, you have this, okay, you're already assigned here, there, or whatever the case might be. So her coming from that experience, her being someone who I find who's also interested in history, I could see Kamala Khan being influenced by the writings of Charles Xavier, Martin Luther King, or Fatima Jinnah YouTube videos and things of that nature. And so when she finds herself wanting to integrate more into Inhuman society, that she may have a problem with the way that it's structured. That's just me. And 10 years from now, I see her becoming queen of the Inhumans because of this. This is just it's my speculation.
Okay,
And you could laugh at me.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. That's it. And so we have now it's Women's History Month, that's going on now in comics. And one of the exciting things that I find, especially with a lot of women now entering the genre, is that you're getting a more diverse storytelling. You're having different experiences. And I find these things, and I'm serious, I find these things very interesting. I'm very excited about Miss Marvel, Moondragon, and all the things that's coming out now. And so based upon that, what would be your message that would capture the spirit of Miss Marvel and for women across the globe?
Yeah, sure. Would you have to repeat that question again?
For what captures the spirit of Miss Marvel and for women across the globe? So what would kind of, I guess, because for me, I'm a 40-year-old man and I have things in common with her. So in terms of for women across the globe, how do you think that she relates?
Well, I mean, I think that she is, a young person who struggles a lot with, has always sort of struggled a lot with, self-image, body image issues. Her being one of the only really brown people in her community. Her being affected by traditional concepts of beauty and power, and struggling to move beyond that and finding a sense of comfort in her own skin and comfort in her own identity. I think that takes a long time for a lot of people, but I think for women and for young girls, we tend to really internalize others' perceptions of ourselves, and and the images that are out there, and the fact that we feel like we need to mimic others' perceptions of beauty. So Kamala really has struggled beyond that, and I think that's something that she'll always try to combat, is to make sure that she finds her own identity, but she really is able to be proud of herself and proud of her the way she looks. I mean, that's a big reason why Willow wanted to give her these crazy polymorph powers, because for a 16-year-old girl to have strange looking powers where her body can stretch and it looks weird, that's a big thing. I mean, we wanted her to be a bit clunky and awkward, because that's really embracing clunky and awkward is a very difficult thing to do, but she has to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I give her credit for staying thin. Because I lived in Pakistan for 2 years, and I used to have muscles until I discovered the food there. So if I had that diet of butter chicken and biryani and mutton ribs and everything else, you would have to roll me through the panels.
Well, she works out a lot, right?
Yeah.
So she's beating up some bad guys.
That's it. And so when it comes to the comic book industry, I know that you're here, you're visiting, you came with the Literary Festival and everything with Marvel, but is there anything that Marvel is looking to see out of the Middle East or out of the UAE in regards to the comic book industry here?
Well, I mean, what we've already seen, at Marvel and what we've already seen, in this region has really been incredible. I mean, people have such recognition with our characters, with our brand. There's so much love and passion out here. So I'd love to be able to expand content access here, making sure that people have more also access to some of our great characters that people might not be aware of. And obviously Ms. Marvel is really just the beginning of that. But I'd love for us to become, one of the bigger, entertainment experiences and hubs out in the Middle East, because I think superheroes and superhero culture really transcends all cultures, and it can connect with anyone. And we're truly, I do believe Marvel will become a very global brand in that sense. So hopefully this is just the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, now that I have this opportunity with you, the inner loser in me wants a Miss Marvel and Dust crossover.
Oh, okay. That's so funny. Someone else asked that actually this weekend.
Really? Okay. So there's two of us. Yeah. Okay. Also, too, I know that you've had the chance, especially now, a lot of people who are independent artists who will come to you and, show you their work or show you things that they're working on in regards to critiques and everything else. So based upon the independent artists here, what do you feel about some of the work that you've seen here and some of the strides that people are making in the Middle East, artistically and literally?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of great talent here, which is really important because I don't think people realize that there's a lot of artists and creators out in the Emirates. Like, everyone comes here and everyone's like, oh, everyone's working in petrochemicals or they're in finance, and it's, it couldn't be further from the case. And I've gotten to meet some really talented artists and writers. I hope that they, continue to tell the stories that they want to tell, and, hopefully find a way into the Marvel universe, find a way, I would even promote DC, wherever that they can get their name out there, and become a more important part of the creative community in comics, because we really need more voices like theirs. That's really, really important to help the industry grow, to help the type of creative content we have out there, for that to really evolve. Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. And then going in towards the end of the interview, aside from Kamala, who's your favorite superhero and Marvel? And if you had a superpower, what would it be?
So I don't have one favorite superhero. It's really, really, really hard for me. So I'm going to do three. Okay. Classic, Gambit. I've just always loved Gambit. I don't know why. Maybe I had a crush on him growing up. Really loved him. His powers are also like meh, but loved him. Also love, Captain Marvel. It's a special place in my heart. Will always be a special place in my heart. And out of actually the new characters, maybe in the last 5 years, Miles Morales. I love Miles Morales. Yeah. I think he's fantastic, and he has so much. He feels like a kid brother to me. Of course, Ms. Marvel's like different. I can't. She's not on my top 3 because she's forever the best ever. So if that counts. Yeah.
Okay. And then, all right, there's one thing. Within Hobby Nation, there's a dispute between Faisal and myself over who Captain Marvel would actually befriend, so to speak. Okay. So we have our own internal split, because we fight over who loves Captain Marvel. Yeah, between the two of us. Yeah. Actually, I do. We're both military. Yes. Yeah. And so and then the last question I want to ask. I know that you put out a while back about the evolution of women in comics called Girls Comics, and it came out in parts 1, 2, and 3. Will there ever be more additions to it? Do you plan to add to it, or is that our only opportunity to access, again, the development of women in comics and finding female superheroes?
Yeah. So there are no plans at the moment. I will say at that point in time, we didn't have any female-led titles. We barely had many female creators. We're in a very different landscape now, just in terms of the amount of, we have 23 female-led titles in production at the moment, which is just a huge accomplishment. So I don't know if we necessarily need to create a special anthology just for, just for female creators. Not to say that we won't. There's no plans at the moment. I think maybe it's thinking about, the next generation of creators, if there's people that we want to highlight. But I will say we have such great content out already that I'd much rather just package all of that fantastic content to promote those characters as much as possible. But who knows? It did do very well for us, and it was such a fun anthology. So great to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Sana Amanat, thank you for joining us at Hobby Nation. Thank you for being nice to me. I really appreciate it, and it means a lot to me personally. Again, because I'm from Brooklyn, she's right across the river in New Jersey. Us New Yorkers spend a lot of time making fun of people from New Jersey, so I'll take back everything I said, about New Jersey. And Comicave, thank you for hosting us, and our friends at Hobby Nation. Again, we'd like to thank again Miss Sana, for coming to sit with us and to talk about Miss Marvel and comics, and we hope to see her again and see you guys again. Thanks a lot.